recipient of that energy, and he's just going along with it. Yeah, I hope I'm live, by the way. I think I'm live. Anyways, yeah, so tonight I'll be looking at Zelensky, and if you have any issues relating to Zelensky that you want to know about, I think I'll look like I did with Putin at his health, at what else? Kind of his willingness to end the war, on like how I want to know like how much is he willing to be flexible with the war? Is he willing to have some degree of flexibility to negotiate with Putin, or is he totally against any kind of negotiations, any kind of surrender of land to Russia? So that's kind of the main thing I want to look at, and this connecting to that energy I'm seeing with February, March. What does that have to do with him, and is he part of that, or is he just more the recipient? So yeah, I think that's the main things I wanted to discuss with Zelensky. And some interesting things have been coming up about the war in Ukraine, like recent stuff about the U.S. possibly profiting on the war. So how is he going to respond to that and things like that? I haven't been following actually the Ukraine war this week very well. So if I say something that's totally at odds with some recent knowledge, feel free to correct me. But I kind of know the gist of it, I think. Before I go on, though, let me remind you I do private readings on SuperPeer. If you want a private reading, I have 15% off till December 31st. So feel free to set up a private meeting if you want me to do a reading for you on anything. Just go to superpeer.com/AdamSavage and use this coupon code, and you shall be couponed. Okay. So that's how you can do it. The information is also in the information for this video down below. All right. So let's get started with Zelensky. I'm going to begin with his overall health for 2023, his overall energy, because being an acting president during a war, his whole country's at war, so it's a dangerous place to be, certainly. So is there going to be issues relating to his health? His livelihood, will it be threatened at all in 2023? Or actually including now, between now and the end of 2023. So the next, 14 months, quite a bit of time. But let's get a read. Okay. I'm seeing the Empress. The Empress is a pretty stable card. I don't see it as any kind of threat on his health. I think he's going to be good overall. Yeah, this looks, and I would say based on this too, that it looks more calming than the energy that we had this year. I'm feeling that energy in February, March, that something's going to happen and shift it, and I think it's going to be toward a more restorative. And the Empress is also kind of like a mother figure in that she is caring for her citizens. Like if he's the president still next year, then he'll be caring for his citizens and trying to take care of things rather than going to war. She's not so much a war card, which I think is positive, and I hope it signals the end of this war. I'm going to look more at that, though. Let's take a look now at, let's see. I guess I want to know what his current feelings are about what is his willingness to continue the war. Is he kind of becoming exasperated and exhausted at this point, or is he willing to go on as long as it takes and no grudging? So I guess what is his willingness to continue the war at this point? All right, this card has come out. Interesting. So I'm seeing the Five of Cups. This is more of I think you could look at it and see it's not so much a card of wanting to continue the war at this point. This is an emotionally devastating card. I think he is starting to feel the fact that this war has gone on so long. It'll be approaching a year next year, in a few months. So I feel like, yeah, a lot of his energy to continue this war has been sapped this year. I think when the war began, it was just seemed like something would be determined one way or the other, but it's just become this really long war of attrition in which it's just nothing seems to have changed. So I can see how that would really wear on him. Let's look at next. So I looked at his health. It seems overall pretty solid for next year. I don't see him being killed or anything like that. Let's look at. I want to look at this energy that I'm seeing in February, March. If he's sort of the cause of that, or if he's going to be more the recipient of that energy. Because sometimes energy usually comes from within individuals or collections of individuals, and then other people who are kind of not at the mercy, but that experience it almost from the outside. It can seem almost supernatural or magical, and so I want to know if it's coming from within or if it's coming from either Putin or the Ukrainian people or somewhere else. NATO, from other participants in this war, or is he the cause of that? Is he like the outflowing of that energy? All right, I'm seeing two cards. Interesting. So I'm seeing a Judgment card and a Seven of Cups. And this card has come up quite a bit recently, the Seven of Cups, because it's sort of a pathway card in which you have the option of choosing multiple paths, and that includes positive paths and negative paths. So generally, most of the paths are positive, and really, it's really up to the individual behind this. So Zelensky as this, I see him. So I'm seeing basically the Judgment card, which is a larger systems force, not an individual energy. It's more like I think this is an energy that's really hard to pinpoint on one individual at this point. It's not going to be coming. I don't see it coming from just him. I see it as the larger force of this war. I don't see it as coming from Putin either, or any individual. This is just the larger energy that we're shifting into something else, that away from this war. So I think basically the terms and conditions are going to be coming up for this war to end, and I don't see it happening in a way that is totally satisfying to either Zelensky or Putin. I think they're going to both be kind of unhappy with it, but it'll also be the end of the war, which I think they will both be happy about. I feel like both of them are going to have to lose face, though. Like Zelensky, his big thing is like he doesn't want to give up any land, and Putin's thing is that he doesn't want to. So neither of them want to back down. So rather than one of them losing face and the other one having a total victory, I'm seeing more of a mixed victory. So I'm guessing some of the land that Russia has taken is going to remain with Russia, but I still feel that the majority of the land is going to be restored to Ukraine. Yeah, so that energy in February, March, I don't see it just coming through Zelensky. Hello, Rainbow. I see people are showing up. Excellent. Yeah, if you guys have any Zelensky-related questions or Ukraine war questions, feel free to chime in, or anything else we can do readings on later. Right now, if you're just arriving, I've just basically looked at the war in Ukraine to see Zelensky's overall health for next year, which seems pretty solid. His willingness to end the war in Ukraine, which is he doesn't want to give up. He doesn't want to surrender to Russian demands, but he is very exasperated by the war. He's like he doesn't want to, lose his whole country, have hundreds of thousands of people killed. I've heard different estimates on the number of people already killed, but either way, it's a high number, and it's more than anyone wants. And so I think that's what I'm seeing with that. He's like, yes, he's still committed to Ukraine independence and not surrendering to Russia at all, but he's also seeing thousands of his citizens die, and that's not something he wants either. So that energy is kind of leading towards this February-March energy that is a shift in the war, and I think it's going to be coming from a lot of different sources, not just from him. It's going to be an opportunity for him, though, to take it. He's going to have to make that decision. So let's see, in February, March, is he willing to make that decision? Will he kind of work with it? Right away, this came out, the 10 of Wands. So I see your question, Rainbow. Let me address this, and then I'll get back to that. It's a good question. Let's see. So I was looking at his willingness to go along with some negotiation process that I see coming up in February, March. I think it is a movement card of moving forward, but it's like one of the most resistant moving cards, because this character has his head really wrapped up in his conceptions of how things have to be. It's a very obstinate card, so I see like negotiations beginning, but I don't see. I mean, he's going to be really very. He just does not want to kind of surrender to any Russian demands whatsoever. He just has these really strong conceptions of how he wants this war, what the terms are for this war to end. Let me see Putin's willingness to negotiate at that point. Because when I looked at Putin, I saw, I believe it was the King of Swords or King of Cups. Either way, it was a king card. So both of those are very, very powerful, and they're not used to taking demands from others. But okay, so I saw this right away with Putin, his willingness to negotiate. And so I'm seeing this as Putin, which is where my attention was drawn. It's drawn to different characters in this card every time, but it's going to the more victorious kind of boy over here. And what I'm seeing with that is Putin is going to walk away with a fair amount of Ukraine territory. But I mean, that's what that other card with the guy with the bundle of sticks, that's Zelensky. He's basically he knows that he can't get away from that, but he does want the war to end. He does want to go ahead with negotiations, but his bitterness towards Putin is just really strong. He does not want to participate in this process. But so Rainbow, you're asking, are there risks of expansion of the war in R of Moldova, R in Russia, in R? What does the R stand for? The expansion of the war in Russia. I'm not clear what you're saying. Let me see. Yeah, I could basically just see if it's going to be expanding into any other countries beyond Ukraine and Russia. I've done a reading on that before. Actually, I don't know if I have on my channel. I feel like I did privately. Somebody asked about it, but yeah, I'll just basically look though if it could potentially spread anywhere else, be it Belarus, Moldova, wherever, like basically anywhere outside of Russia and Ukraine. Will this war spread? I'll do that reading. And Republic of Moldova. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'll take a look. I'm not gonna look. Well, I'll look at Moldova, and then I'll look at anywhere else. So Moldova. Potential for the war to spill over into Moldova. All right. Interesting. So I'm seeing a 9 of Swords. This is, this seems like a potential for something negative, but I'm feeling like it's more just like fear about it rather than it actually happening. But I feel like there's potential for it to get close, like in the southern half of Ukraine, but I don't see it crossing over. I can see it getting very close though. Yeah. Let me take a look though at other areas, basically just anywhere outside of Ukraine. Will this war spread? Or Russia too, for that matter. But, Russia and Ukraine will go beyond that anywhere. Potential for that to happen. All right. So I'm seeing the Fool. In terms of this, like, I feel like this is like, no, you're welcome, Rainbow. I feel like Putin is willing to go anywhere. Like, I feel like he has goals and he has aims, but he's not afraid of stepping on anyone's toes. So that's why I think if he starts heading more in the south of Ukraine, in that direction of Moldova, for instance, I could see how it would freak people out, because he does have this kind of carefree attitude in which he sees Russia as just so powerful that any other country, like, if he wants it, he can step on it. But I don't see it happening, but based on that earlier one, but it's just, his whole attitude is that he has to demonstrate that Russia is not afraid of anyone, and that he's gonna like portray that. That's his kind of the role that he's playing, is that, if he wants to, he will. But I don't see that happening. I think, I think that getting near borders is something he's not afraid of, though. He'll go like right to the border and no problem. Yeah, that's kind of tricky though. Like that Fool energy is just very like, the Fool doesn't think about things like borders, and that's the attitude that Putin is trying to portray, is that he is like this. So he's just kind of driving this dragon that's underneath him, which is the Russian army and the Russian people, when in fact he is actually in control. But he wants to give that impression that the energy is just so powerful, and he's just doing what he can to contain it. But in fact, he is in control of it. Any other things about this war that we can think of, or about Zelensky? I forgot about that, was like the topic, but he's so closely connected to the war. I can't really think of anything else in particular at this point that I want to know. I think then, if I can't think of anything else, I'll just wrap it up. I guess I want to see, is there potential for Ukraine joining NATO this year? Or I'm sorry, next year, 2023. How willing is Zelensky to go along with that process? I mean, he seems willing, but I mean, is he going to really take an active role in that, or is that going to be some condition of ending this war, is that Ukraine can't join NATO? So potential for Ukraine under Zelensky to join NATO next year. I'm seeing the Ace of Wands, so I'm seeing that Zelensky still wants that. I feel like with the negotiations, if it comes down to Russia having to, like, I could see that being a part of the conditions, is that if Russia is gonna keep some of the land that it's taken, then I think Ukraine's demand is going to be that it can join NATO. And so I think that's what I was talking about with neither Russia nor Ukraine is going to be totally happy with the outcome of this, but if it allows the war to end. So, but that could easily lead to further conflict down the line. So, Putin's always going on about NATO being at his doorstep, and that's like what led to this war. So, if the war does end in early next year, as I'm seeing, February, March-ish, what are the potential for it to flare up again? Like, could this just be a prelude to something else? Whoa. So, card jumped out. What are the potential for this to lead to something else? I'm seeing a Queen of Swords, and I feel like this is like Putin again justifying his actions by the conditions of the world. Like he'll say his hands are tied and he's just doing what is inevitable. So I think this could well lay the ground for something else, but this is like a slower energy than like a King of Swords. So I think Putin is basically I think for the rest of 2023, there's not going to be a second conflict that flares up, but I could see after that another conflict. I feel like this is just, if the war ends next year, early next year, as I'm seeing, then it will eventually lead to something else, that it's like not over. Putin still has things he wants handled. I see a question. Rainbow's asking, what is the current relationship between Zelensky and Biden? It's a good one. Let's ask that, because as I mentioned, there's been articles recently about the U.S. profiting from the Ukraine war, and yeah, let's look at the dynamics at the moment between Zelensky and Biden. Has their relationship soured, or is it still solid? So again, the Empress came up, as she did earlier, for Zelensky. And this is not a too turbulent card. It's a very stable card. So I think overall, yeah, like I don't see the overall relationship between Zelensky and Biden changed. It seems pretty solid still. And yeah, it's this energy though is basically Zelensky's becoming more he is wearing out, and he is becoming more susceptible to a willingness to end this thing. So I think at this point he's just grateful to have any support that he can from the US and NATO, but obviously he would prefer, he always would prefer more, but the US is only going to do so much. And yeah. Any other questions that I'm not thinking of about Ukraine and Zelensky? And I guess let me take one final look, unless somebody else has a question, about whether Zelensky will still be president at the end of next year. Like if for some reason he might step down or something, will that change at all? I just want to see his continuity as president through the end of next year. No, you're welcome, Rainbow. So Zelensky through the end of next year, his continuity as president, will that change at all? Nothing coming out yet. Sometimes I'm not feeling an energy with it. Okay, there we go. I'm seeing two cards. The Four of Wands and the World. I'm sorry, the World. So overall, I see this. Yeah, he will definitely be continuing as president, and this is a pretty solid potential card for the future. I think this is looking ahead to the rebuilding and all that's going to happen after the war, and I think he will definitely be taking a part in that. I don't see that changing. So if that's it, then I'll call it a night. And thank you for joining. I think I've decided for the next few days I'm going to do horoscopes for 2023 for every sign of the zodiac. So I'll do a short video, or long, I don't know. I'm just going to kind of do them as often as I can until I get through all 12 signs. And feel free to subscribe if you haven't, because I will be hitting all the signs. And I'm just going to basically, I do monthly readings, but I'm going to do just a general, as I did last year, a general path and energy for next year for your sign of the zodiac. So make sure you're subscribed, and hope to see you there. I think they'll be fun, and feel free to bring up any news topics for future predictions that I will be doing once I finish the horoscopes in a few days. All right. Hope to see you there. Bye-bye.